looking in retrospect over the 7 years that I've been doing research, my entire vision of the city has been affected by it. When I walk around the city, my experience of this presence of the city is really deepened by my knowledge of its past.
When Paul Dorpat and the Mayor's Small Business Task Force put together a book of 294 historic Seattle photographs, they had no idea how much demand there would be for their project. To their surprise, the book quickly sold out its first 4 printings. But for Dorpat, the point was not just to market a successful book. It was to preserve Seattle for future generations.
Paul Dorpat is not filming traffic. He's recording the city's history, its people, its buildings, its events.
As a member of the community, I should do my part for the community to enrich its experience of itself. So I'm very interested in seeing these materials, these photographs, in a sense, liberated for human use. I'm interested in human access. That's one of the things that this little book, 294 Glimpses, is doing amazingly well.
For years, Dorpat has researched Seattle's history through dusty old photographs. Pioneer Square, where the city began 130 years ago. It was commemorated midway with a stolen totem pole. Now it's been revitalized. Belltown, site of a demonstration at the turn of the century protesting its muddy conditions. Belltown now houses avant-garde restaurants and boutiques. Gasworks Park, Seattle's factory turned playground. In fact, the topography of the land went through dramatic changes. No doubt, an environmental impact statement would never pass today on the likes of the Denny regrade.
Denny Hill was considered by the engineering mentality, which likes things smooth and flat and a fine line, to be an obstruction. So piece by piece they tore the hill away. There were a variety of technical means for leveling Denny Hill, but the one that's most dramatic is the large hoses that shot water at the hill and simply corroded it away. Indeed, it's really a sad thing, I believe, and many I would think would agree that it did occur, because the hill was a wonderful natural resource. It wasn't in any sense a very large hill.
Then there was underground Seattle.
Well, underground Seattle is really the Pioneer Square second basement. Before the fire, the city was somewhat lower in elevation than it is today, and that proved, of course, a problem. In 1889, the city council met and took a couple of months to decide what the new grade of the street would be. They decided, obviously, that it would be higher.
Another major land transformation was Harbor Island, billed as the world's largest man-made island.
Harbor Island was made of dredgings. At the same time they were deepening the channel of the Duwamish, they were taking the muck that they stirred up from the bottom and making an island out of it. It was also partially made of soil, of dirt that was taken off of the Beacon Hill area.
So far we've been talking a lot about physical changes of the city, but you also did a lot of research on historical events.
For instance, there are lots of images of the effect of the Seattle fire, both before and after. The fire of 1889 changed the city from one of clapboards, wooden structures, to principally one of Masonic structures, masonry. There are also images that relate to celebrations. In 1909, Seattle celebrated as it had never celebrated before with the Alaska, Yukon, and Pacific Exposition, or for short, the AYP. Many citizens will still remember it and went to it. It was staged at the University of Washington campus, which was before that time very primitive. Indeed, the AYP was one way to sort of elaborate the campus landscape and to give it some new buildings. And then some more depressing events, perhaps, like the 1919 strike, which lasted for a week but essentially failed. That is the general strike in which the entire city shut down. And then some chronic events that you might like, Hooverville, for instance, which was a community of single men that helped each other through the Depression, a neighborhood, as the book says, of necessity. Those are examples of some of the primary events of the city that the book helps depict.